I had a great question. I got a DM from Aaron Miller, who's a junior designer with the San Diego FC. He asked a great question. How do you make a player look like they're integrated into their background? And we had covered a little bit of this in the Adobe live stream, so if you haven't checked that out, I recommend checking it out. But she said that she had the issue of making her players feel like they were stickers on a background. And she was asking, is there a better way or what is the workflow to get a player to feel like they're integrated into an environment? So she had sent me this graphic to kind of illustrate her point where she felt that the bottom players didn't feel like they were immersed in this Navy background. And I can see what she's saying, but to be honest, one, we got to give shouts to the composition. I love it. Two, I think it's a really great way of showing information. I think it's awesome. So all the tools are here. Now it's just a matter of elevating the photos to enhance the overall graphics. So that's what we're going to be showing today. I'm going to be walking through the process of what I would do if I was trying to get him to feel like he was part of that Navy background. So the first thing that stands out to me is the fact that he's obviously underneath floodlights. Like if you have a dark background, but then your cutout seem brighter than they should really be. I think that might be the issue here with these photos. This one's a little bit better because the jersey is already navy, but all three of these cutouts are underneath floodlights, very bright jerseys. They take away from the darkness and the moodiness of that navy background. So we're going to try to fix that here with this graphic. So first things first, when I start doing any player treatment, the first thing that I do is to look at camera raw. So we already kind of decided that we want the photo to be darker because the background is dark. So I'm going to be messing with this a little bit, and it's all trial and error. I'm going to lower the exposure down. I want it to feel like it's more a part of this scene. I think bumping up the contrast might be nice. It already has a lot of highlights, right? It already is underneath these floodlights. It's a very bright atmosphere. We don't need that per se. I always like to up the shadows. The big thing is that whenever you up the shadows, you take away any dark spots on the jersey. So when you actually go in and paint your lighting, you are able to have more command over where the light is actually hitting the armpits, the neck, underneath the legs, the calves, all that kind of stuff. I'm gonna up the shadows here for that reason. Lower the whites. I'll lower the blacks a little bit to kind of give it that more moody feel as well. And then also, one of the things that I always consider when I'm looking at integrating a photo into a background is making sure that the color of the background makes its way into our subject. So what I mean by that is we have a navy background, right? And say the background was red, and you have a player with a white jersey that's in this red environment. It will reflect the red light that's coming in and hitting my shirt. So my white shirt in normal lighting conditions would now have a reddish tint to it. So the same thing is true here. So we have a navy background. We want to make sure that blue appears in our subject. So one of the ways you do that is messing with the temperature. And so I'll lower it down a little bit. And so you can already see I'll go back and forth and I'll look at our player image and then I'll look at the background and I'll kind of glance back and forth to see if I can imagine this player in this scene or not. So I added in some blues using the temperature, but I'm also going to add in a little bit of purple because it's kind of like a little bit of color theory here. This dark navy is not just a true blue. It has a little bit of purple into it. So I'm adding just a little bit here. It's so subtle. It's almost like you can't even tell, but there is a little bit of purple in that background. There is a little blue in that background. So trying to find different ways to bring that out in our player is what we're trying to do. If you really just want to call it a day, you don't want to overcomplicate it. If you got a blue background, you want to make sure the temperature is scaled more to the left on this temperature filter. Nice. So now we have that. Texture and clarity. I've said this before. It's like LeBron James, D Wade. Texture and clarity, they go hand in hand. They're boys. All right. So I always bump up texture on my graphics, always bump up clarity. Texture is almost always further than clarity, at least in the graphics. But you don't want it to be too stark. I can already tell this is a little bit aggressive. If you want a more dramatic and gritty type of graphic, you'll bump these all the way up. I don't like that style personally. It's not for me. So I'll just kind of keep it as is. Might mess with it here. I like that. Moving it to the left, I think it might make my image look better. And then curves. So this is always an elusive thing for me. Very much trial and error. I've said it before. There's no rhyme or reason. But what I like to do is I like to try to make an S curve where I'll lift this up and then I lift up the bottom left-hand part of the curve, which will make the dark parts and make the shadows of the image look more matted so they're not as aggressive. I'll lower this S curve down to kind of make it a little bit darker, and then I'll lift this back up to bring out the highlights, right? So all that did, if I take it away and put it back on, it's so subtle. It's almost like you can't even tell. Let me see if I can get a little bit closer and you can tell. It makes it pop. This looks more flat. You can almost see the grays in the image, but if you take it off, put it back on, the whites and the highlights are isolated and they pop. So it looks more extreme, right? So already we can tell from what we had before to what we have now that it's already starting to fit this color profile that our background has, right? So we got our navy here, and then we have our kind of blue tint skin, blue tint jersey. We're already kind of getting to where we want to go. Not all the way there, but we're 85% of the way, right? So if I scale it back on and off, and if you start looking at the background of your image to the actual image itself, you can see that it's starting to get closer to where we want it to go. So we are good to go. So we're gonna keep on moving on, and then this is really where we can kind of get into the color profile of our photo. If you're a beginner designer and you're new to Photoshop, everything we just did is good for the majority of your graphics. Now, for the more advanced designer and for the designer that wants to kind of up their game a little bit, one of the tools that I think is really awesome to use is this color mixer. Now, color mixer, what it does is it specifically targets each color in this photo individually. So again, trial and error, but there's a general rule of thumb that I use for each one. And so we'll go through it first. The big thing is that red, orange, and yellow will most always be colors that come from the skin. And one of the biggest detractors from a professional looking graphic is having different colors in the skin. So we can look here, right? Light, pale, almost yellow on the skin. We have this dark brown. We have this red on his nose, this red on his cheek here. We have a different white here, and then almost a magenta here. So just looking at this photo, right, I could point out probably 5 different colors that are appearing on his face. We don't want that. We want a scale and a controlled gradient of what colors we want. So this will help us get there. So if I already see that there's red in here, what I'll do is I'll move this luminance slider all the way up, and it takes out that red. It kind of evens out the skin tone versus lowering it and then it brings it out more, right? So we're gonna lift it up, try to even out the skin. You can do it again here, kind of makes the skin more tan. And then this will kind of really make a difference as well, right? So we get the skin from what it was looking like before, which is like all these red splotches in it, and then evening it out with this red color adjuster. Now orange, you can do the same thing. Orange normally changes the entire complexion of the face. Because most of the skin tones that you work with will fall underneath that orange kind of gradient. So this is just a matter of personal preference. I always like to lower it down a little bit, kind of make it look like they got a little bit of a nice tan. I always find it looks better than just having skin be completely pale. So once we got that, we got yellows. There is definitely this yellow appearing underneath on the sides of his mouth. I don't really know what that is. We can eliminate that. So what we're doing is we're lowering the hue down to kind of even it out with the rest of the orange complexion in the face. And then that should be it, right? So with and without color mixer, we can tell there was a bunch of different colors in the face. And then now we have it more even, as you can see. Small differences like that, they add up, they make a big difference. Now, we have blue in the jerseys, we have blue in the skin. Now it's time to look into that specifically with these different ones. So one of the things with soccer and any sport that is on grass is that you will get light emitted from the field onto the jersey. So specifically if you have a white jersey and you're playing on a green surface, a green turf field or a green grass field, the light and the color of the grass will emit up and make your jersey look green in certain places. Now to eliminate this, it's a really easy fix. So let's just try to find a place. Right here, you can tell there's a little bit of this green coming in on the socks and right here. We don't want that, right? It's one of the reasons why I use gradient maps, and it's one of the reasons that I do this specific thing right here, which is I'll take the saturation and I'll lower it down, take the luminance, I'll lighten it up, and there's a few different colors in here, so let me try to do this. Awesome. Cool. So the color here, right, it's green, but it also has a little bit of this cyan. You kind of just mess with it, but you can see that it takes it from this green color that's emitting from the ground. It basically just makes it completely white, right? So it's just one of those things that is again, trying to get us to make our player look like it's in the environment that we're creating as opposed to the environment the photo is taken from. I think that's one of the big takeaways from this. Now we have this blue. I'm going to mess with it a little bit. I mess with the blues. The thought process behind it is, okay, my background is navy. So I want to make sure that the blues that I'm getting in my jersey sort of match the background that I'm using, but without totally distorting and changing the color. These jersey colors are light blue because they're made to be light blue. Light blue can complement navy. So instead of making it all the way navy and really blue, we don't want to do that. We just want to bump it up a little bit, the luminance a little bit, and then keep it a little bit to the right. So just off this color mixer thing we got here, we're already seeing some really cool coloration in our photo that will lead to a really great and seamless graphic. So far what we've done in Camera Raw is we lowered the exposure because all the floodlights in our original photo were making our photo really bright. We don't want that, especially if our background is dark. Then we just went through, messed with the contrast all the way down to the blacks. Again, there's no tried and true method here. You kind of just slide back and forth and look back to your background. After that, make the temperature more blue because that's what our background has. Raise the texture, raise the clarity, kind of give it that gritty feel, make it look like it's a sports graphic. Mess with the curves a little bit just to kind of get a little bit more pop and a little bit more light in the jersey. Then finally kind of go through with the color mixer and go through each color individually to see how we can elevate different colors that exist already in our photo and make them look seamless towards our background. It takes a little bit of getting used to, and it's definitely a lot of practice, definitely learning by practice and doing as opposed to just watching videos, but this is a good place to start. So now if I work for a team, which I do, I know that if we play in our home stadium, the lighting conditions will pretty much always be the same. So one of the things that I make sure to do is if I find a Camera Raw that I really like, I'll go through, I'll click these 3 buttons here, I'll create a preset, and I'll title the preset. This one I'll do San Diego FC. So let's see the reveal, how I did. Compared to what we had originally, right? The color in the face is very red, the jersey is very white. Neither of these colors complement this navy background. The composition is super strong and I love it, but I do think that a little bit of Camera Raw goes a long way. So instead of getting a photo like how we have down here, we adjusted a little bit and we're able to get that. So that's one of the ways that I would first go about a problem like this. It's not the most drastic difference in the world, but it is a good place to start. And with a little bit more time, I would go through and I would add a few adjustment layers. Everyone knows I love gradient maps, so I would probably add a gradient map here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to speed run the process. I'm not going to explain it, but I'm going to show what a little bit more coloration can actually do. So that basically is the entire process that I would do for treating an image and making it feel like it's part of this background. I think if you compare what we have from the right to the left, you can see a little bit of a difference in how I'm approaching integrating it into the background. Main point is, let's just try to find different ways to get that blue showing up in the jersey. Try to find different ways to get the skin to have a complementary color to the background. And once you do that, with a little bit of shadows, it looks great. You have more command over the graphic and making it look more professional. So this is the way that we kind of hedge against making things feel like they're a sticker and try to get it a little bit more engaged with that background. I think this is a good jumping off point for people that are beginners, or if you're a little bit more intermediate to advanced. You can probably take away a few skills here. Hopefully you can take something away and integrate that into your own graphics and start getting them to look a little bit more professional. So covered that today. If you guys have any more questions, let me know. Always answering questions. So hopefully this helped, and I'll see you guys in the next video.